like I said before, our mission statement is all about student experience, and we are proactive in the students' schedules and their so-called education experience.
Mhm.
Um, we're not the ones that are going to sit back and if you miss a class, say, "Oh well, that's your problem, not ours." We proactively go out and we say, "Hey, noticed you haven't posted in your online class in 3 days. Is there anything I can help you with? Can we, get you in there and get you posting again?" So it keeps the retention rate up, keeps students engaged, and I think it's a plus for us and the students.
Just a couple of questions I think would be interesting to use or interesting to understand. And we've had a couple of people that have popped in questions while we've been sitting here. Um, I think specifically, they're asking, how do you handle training when you onboard new students or onboard new users inside the system? Is that something that you're managing the training process of TrueDialog, or do you work with the
I
client
don't.
services?
We have an onboarding process for all our new hires, and they
Uh-huh.
do have a True Dialogue module.
Uh-huh.
In addition, Dave Caribou always reaches out to me and says, "Hey, is there anything we can do? Do you guys need training? We can, if you have new hires, have them, reach out. We'll do a quick training class." And um, so we have, like I said, we do a quick module when they're first hired, and then if they need uh, ongoing training, we'll do that also.
Fantastic. I think one of the other questions that's kind of popping in here is that, with regards to structuring of the system, you mentioned accounts and sub-accounts and all that stuff. How have you found administering that from uh, uh, kind of a kind of a control piece with regards to, how you can see it all put together and how do you manage it using, like you mentioned yesterday, the account tree functions?
Right. Um, for starters, I am kind of a one-man show, so I'm pretty much the one doing all of that stuff. Just with the volume of people that we have in there and stuff, it just kind of speaks to the ease with which you can do this with one person, myself doing this for our entire college, all
Uh-huh.
campuses and the online campus. But the way we organize it is we have our campuses and our departments. So we have the master account, and then underneath that we have an account for student services, a sub account for financial aid, continuing education, faculty, so on and so on. And what's really nice about the account tree is you can go in there and see in a graphical form the top accounts and all the sub accounts underneath them, and even the users within those accounts. So it's made life exponentially easier on my end.
Sure. And I think one of the other things I know this happened a little before you, but I'm assuming since it's, when we originally started working with the administrators there and the head of the IT department, one of the other frustrations is that all of their texting was kind of spread out amongst multiple vendors. Having it all in one place, I'm assuming that that's provided some some release of tension as well with regards to being able to have a unified view of all the communications regardless of department.
Yeah, definitely. And I think back then there wasn't a whole lot of time put into researching the platforms. They kind of just fell on one, didn't like what ended up not liking it, so they tried another one, ended up, just didn't meet the needs. So we finally, I'm not sure if it was by luck because I wasn't there when they picked TrueDialog, but we finally found, the right platform that works for us and scales out the way we need it to.
Well, that's great to hear. Are there any other things that we've left off of today with that you feel are important to mention with regards to, texting across your university or communications in general, challenges faced, compliance, 10 DLC, things like that?
Yeah, just to speak about compliance a little bit, I think one of the biggest things that we do here is we make sure we keep our True Dialogue platform focused on student outreach. We don't do any collections. We actually turn down requests for any accounts like from the registrar saying, I want to reach out to this person to ask them if they can make a payment. We don't do that. It's strictly student outreach. So we're not trying to, we use keywords, or I should say we even avoid keywords like loan. We use aid to avoid any kind of potential spam risk. We have had a couple instances on our voice side where we've been marked as spam. And thankfully with TrueDialog, we haven't. We've been really upfront saying this is our policy, this is what we want to stick to. Let's make sure we keep this just as student outreach. That way we don't, avoid any kind of issues with blocked messages or, and also say this, another shout out to Dave, as he does keep us up to date, make sure all our campaigns are registered, like new accounts are registered to the campaigns appropriately. So we haven't had any issues so far with blocked messages and stuff.
Well, none more than usual, right? The carriers kind of have a mind of their own at times, and it's. I think one of the things that I know that the team there appreciates working with you, I hear consistently in feedback, is you've got a very good understanding of the telephony system, and we do have clients at times that call and they say your system's not delivering messages, and they don't. You seem to have a good grasp on that. We deliver the messages. It's oftentimes the carriers have pretty strict things and will block the messages.
Yeah,
based off of content.
We've had one incident with that, and the other carrier incidents were when they had an outage. So it's not even being marked as spam or anything. It's just their carrier's down, and obviously they're not going to get messages when that happens.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking time. Amanda, are you there? And can you see any of the other questions that have popped in that we should address? Or I think I can get in here and look.
Hi, I am here. I don't see them. Apologies.
No worries. I've got a question here, and maybe for you, or maybe for, we need to go back and kind of check. One of the questions that came in is said that they have seen in their, they don't use TrueDialog, they use another provider, but they've seen that there are limits with regards to the number of messages that the carriers will accept in any given day with 10 DLC. They're curious, have you seen that issue from your perspective? And if so, how that's handled or how you get around it?
We've never had an issue with that whatsoever. We're sending probably close to 100,000 messages a month, maybe more. I haven't checked in recently, but we've never had any issue with our message volume.
Yeah, I am familiar with 10 DLC, and under normal vetting, I know that Dave and his team have gone through and done additional vetting levels with you guys, and there is something called a trust score that's been introduced inside of 10 DLC as now, and as long as you guys, as you mentioned, Jay, you guys are extremely focused on content and making sure that your use cases are very specific, that they are follow in lines with the 10 DLC requirements and the submissions. And doing that, keeping low complaints, low opt-outs, and high responses, which is engagement, that you build your brand score and your trust score. And through additional vetting requests, I know Dave and his team have worked hard to increase your daily sending limits as well, which, if you want to contact your TrueDialog representative, I know that we can help on that as well. But I think it's a good question, because I think a lot of people just think, oh, I registered for 10 DLC, I can start sending 1 million messages a day, and it's just not the case. So thank you for answering that.
Yeah. Also, I just want to mention, of course, TrueDialog has the capability for short codes, which we have one that we use quite often. That kind of, if there's an issue with, like, I don't know if I should send this through my 10-digit code, you can always send it for the short code, and that'll kind of not skirt the regulations, but it'll definitely help get those messages through.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to understand that if you are sending large volumes and you're having deliverability throttle limits at a carrier level, as Jay mentioned, and I should mention this, is that one of the things that you should consider is short codes, because there is no filtering or velocity limits on short codes. It does take a little longer to go through the approval process, make sure that everything's in line with the carriers. But the traditional sending velocity of a long code is around 20 messages per second, and they have limits, or if you've got a bunch, they have limits of around $2,500 messages per day per carrier. Each carrier has a little different limit. With short codes, you can send as many messages as you want. And I think that the one bind, and you can have up to 4, it's about 600 messages per second per bind. So in order to get things out really quickly, i.e., it's 7 o'clock on Monday morning and you wake up, they're outside of Buffalo and you got 15 inches of snow and the plows haven't run yet, and you say, we're going to delay classes for a few hours, it can get messages out to 22,000 students pretty darn quick.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, like I said, it's a game changer. We're not sending out phone blasts, dialing all these numbers, bothering people, waking them up possibly in the morning, who knows? It's just so much easier to send a text. And, I can't emphasize enough how much our younger generation, they love their phones. They love, responding by a text. It's just so much easier. And, it really, like I said, I think it helps our student retention rate. I think it makes the experience a lot better. And overall, we can do more with a lot less resources.
We got one more question in here. How do you deploy mass text for admissions, and how do you manage the responses? Do you happen to know that, or is that more of an admission specific question?
I can speak to it generally.
Okay.
So with admissions, we have, I think, maybe 5 accounts with basically a team leader in each one, and then their team. So that team will send out a mass text. We get the list, we build them, and just import them as a CSV file. We'll send them out, and then the responses, anyone from the team can manage the response. So they can respond to that response, or talk to someone else saying, hey, so-and-so responded back, wanted to, called you out personally, and then that person can respond.
I know one of the functions that's in our system that if the anonymous user who's asking the question, TrueDialog, being the CEO, I've been able to see kind of the development of this along the way. But one of the things that we've developed in the initial name of the company, TrueDialog, came from our ability to send out large volumes of text. And we have built a very simple queuing system as well that will allow you to control what accounts, user accounts, those messages can go to. We can either do those on an assigned basis. So like in the instance of Bryant Stratton, a lot of the admissions and enrollment reps are working with specific students, and we can push those responses to the specific owners of those accounts, or you can use a round robin and just continue to go around and make sure that if one admissions rep is not getting inundated with 50 while the other ones are getting 2 or 3, the responses to each of those. So that's actually our TrueDialog company was named after that particular product feature and functionality, and it's pretty unique to us. So we're pretty proud of that. But I know Bryant Stratton is a big user of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it works good also because, if people are rotating out of that team, or if they're on vacation or whatever the case may be, and they're not going to be logged in for a while, other people can see those texts and respond appropriately.
Fantastic. Well, Jay, I don't see any other questions here, and I appreciate you very much taking time today. We know you're busy. Hope you guys see, I was watching the weather last night, and it looks like you're getting ready for some big storms there. Buckle down and stay warm, and stay dry and inside during all this crazy weather. But thank you so much again, and we really appreciate you as a client, and even more for taking time out of your day today. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, and if anybody would like a copy of this webinar at the end, please feel free to let us know if this has been recorded. Amanda, if there's any other follow-up notes that I need to mention, or?
No, there are no further questions from the audience. Thank you all for joining. At this time, this concludes our webinar.
Thank you again.